Hello BookTube, this is Aaron from Aaron Read a Book or Aaron Read a Book. I've got a video today that I've done before, but I did it when I first started my channel and I did it in one take with no edits, and it wasn't very good because it's a long list of books and it's hard to remember much about them on the fly. Editing Aaron here. I've decided instead of doing one long video, I'm going to break this down into a series because after doing the first two books, I was already like 13 minutes in. So this is now going to be a series, and I will do it in little groups. So the first two books are two of my favourite books ever. So this one's going to be longer than normal, and then a lot of the books I haven't read, so they'll be quicker. So this is a challenge I set myself around 10 years ago, maybe even longer, and that is to read every book that has won both the Hugo Award for Best Novel and the Nebula Award for Best Novel. And these are the two most prestigious awards in science fiction. The Hugo Award was first awarded in 1953, so it's the older of the two, and that is voted by at Worldcon, which is a big sci-fi convention. It's voted by their members, so like fans of science fiction. And then the Nebula Award was first awarded in 1966, and that is voted by the Science Fiction and Fantasy Writers Association. So by writers. So what I like about the joint winners is it's a combination of fans and writers. So it should give you sort of both sides, like not just writers appreciating other writers and not just fans appreciating, because you can't really trust the fans or the writers on their own. But I think this is a good way to get to drill down to a good book, and it has become more political with time. I'm not going to go into that, but there is ways that it has changed and become less reliable. But I find that early, especially the first couple of decades, that these two awards were both going a really good indicator of a good book. So we'll start with the first. There's 26 times it's happened that a novel has won both. The first time it happened was the first ever Nebula Award, and perhaps the most famous science fiction book of all time. The winner of 1965-1966 awards went to Dune by Frank Herbert. This book, I would say, do not read it as a beginner of science fiction. If you've never read a science fiction book before, this definitely is not the place to start. This is a very sort of complex political book that was sort of based on the politics of the Middle East, but in a sci-fi setting. So the general theme is it's sort of a bit Game of Thronesy, if you like Game of Thrones. The general plot is there's this planet and it's the only planet in the galaxy that has the spice melange, and this spice is required for navigators to navigate at faster than the speed of light. So the only way that these navigators can operate at these speeds is by taking the drug melange. So it's basically oil. And so this planet's very important to the galaxy, because of all intergalactic trade and everything, or galactic trade. And there's families that are like warring factions. The two main ones are the Atreides, who we follow, and their arch rivals, the Harkonnen. And the Harkonnen have always been in charge, or that they've more recently been in charge of June Arrakis, is the other name for it. But the Emperor's decided to switch, and this is a political move from the Emperor of the galaxy. It's not out of kindness, let's say, that he's putting the Atreides in charge and taking the Harkonnen away from Arrakis. So the leader of the Atreides, Duke Leto, he knows that this is a trap essentially, but he takes the job anyway. So you follow the Atreides, and more importantly, follow the son of Duke Leto, Paul Atreides. There is also Paul's mother, Jessica, who is the member of a warrior nun society, which is awesome, called the Bene Gesserit, and they have all sorts of strange powers, and they have a breeding program where they're trying to create a messiah, essentially, someone who can unite the galaxy, who's destined to unite the galaxy, and they call this the Kwisatz Haderach. There's lots of names to get round. Jessica's a member of the Bene Gesserit, and they order her in their breeding program to have a daughter, but she has a son instead because she loves Duke Leto. It was a political marriage, but she loves him, so she gives him a son, and this son may or may not be the chosen one, the Kwisatz Haderach. There's also a brilliant. It's very political, but there's also a brilliant coverage of the sort of natives of Dune. What are they called? The natives of Dune are called the Fremen, and they're like a desert people, great warriors, and they live in little underground places, and they're very mysterious, and they really know how to live on Arrakis, and they were no friends of the Harkonnens, so they don't know whether to trust this new family coming in, the Atreides. So this is a novel that is mostly internal monologues. So it's very lots of perspectives, lots of internal monologue, very, very hard to film. So the film adaptations of Dune have done no justice to this novel, in my opinion. Even though the new one looks pretty, I don't think it has any of the soul of Dune. So I love Dune. I think it's the greatest science fiction novel ever written, but like I say, not for beginners necessarily, or not if you're not into like political novels. Maybe give this one a miss, but generally I would give it a go. It also doesn't hold your hand. You jump straight into this political situation, and there's no narrator going, this is this is that, this is this. You're thrown straight into the deep end, and you have to learn to swim. But once you're 100 pages into this novel, it's a work of genius. Yes, so that's the first one. And the second winner was in 1969/1970, the second novel that won both of them, and that is my personal favourite science fiction writer, Ursula K. Le Guin, and this is her masterpiece, The Left Hand of Darkness. And again, this is not going to be a good one to start on if you've not read any science fiction before, because again, it's a very deeply political novel. I do think Ursula K. Le Guin is a good author for people who aren't into science fiction yet, though, because she focuses on the soft sciences rather than physics and stuff. So her novels are normally psychological or sort of cultural rather than to do with any hard science. They're basically human beings stories, and a lot of them are comments on modern society or the society of the time. Left Hand to Darkness, although I think is one of her most difficult novels to get to, because again, it doesn't hold your hand when you first start reading it. You're thrown straight into a situation. And there's some similar themes to Dune in that this is the story of a emissary called Genli I, who is from Earth, and he's part of a loose sort of net of planets that are called the Ecumen, and they are like a peaceful alliance of planets, and they've found this new planet, Winter it's called, where so it's sort of like again quite similar to Dune, where Dune is a desert planet and this is a winter planet. So Genli's sent to Winter to sort of convince them to join the Ecumen, and this is a deeply foreign planet to him. Just the fact that he is a him, for example. So the thing that everyone knows about this novel is it is about a race that are ambisexual, so they change their sex at certain mating periods, and they can give birth, or they can be the father. So it's a deep exploration of how gender affects a culture. So this is a topic that is all the rage now, but almost untouched in 1969, 1970. So a brilliant sort of well ahead of its time novel. So it follows Genli, and he is trying to, again, there's sort of warring factions on this planet, and there's jealousy. Why is he with he goes to the Gethen. There's a part of the world called the Gethen, and they have rivals who are not happy that he's talking to them and not the rivals. And it also follows a politician that he becomes friends with called Estraven. And again, lots of politics in this. It's a very complex novel. But I do love it. I think it is Le Guin's best book, but it is not a good start. But I just love how good she is at world building. She again, she doesn't hold your hand. You're thrown straight into this world, and you learn all about it. It's a very similar feeling to Dune, where you really feel like this is a real place. And this is the first in a series, or actually not the first, but this is part of a loose series called the Hainish Cycle, which follows this sort of Ecumen group and adding new people to it and new technology and things. Brilliant book. Don't start with this. I would start if you're starting Le Guin, I would start with her fantasy, maybe, which The Wizard of Earthsea, which is a sort of children's book she wrote, but becomes an adult series, and again, I think is one of the greatest fantasy series of all time. So Le Guin, genius writer, great book.